The clink of glass, the hum of evening jazz, and the low murmur of Manhattan's elite filled the private lounge of the Aurelia, a rooftop restaurant so exclusive it didn't exist on Google Maps. Lilith Hart didn't look like she belonged there, but then again, she never had. Not when she was walking past tables where steaks cost more than her monthly rent, and especially not when she carried plates to women wearing jewelry worth more than her yearly salary. She was used to being invisible. Until that night. Until she noticed her. Veronica Vale sat in a leather armchair near the window, untouched wine swirling lazily in her glass, fingers tapping her temple in a gesture that meant one thing. She was bored. Or annoyed. Possibly both. The richest woman under 40 in the country didn't tolerate boredom well. Her schedule was a war map. Her calendar, a list of conquests, mergers, acquisitions, hostile takeovers, all sealed with her signature smile. Cool, ruthless, unreadable. No one dared interrupt her when she looked like that. No one but Lilith. "You're about to spill that Chardonnay," Lilith said flatly, catching the glass just as it tipped over. Her voice wasn't servile, wasn't apologetic. It was dry, sharp, direct. Like no one had ever spoken to Veronica Vale in her life. Veronica's eyes snapped up, pinning her with a gaze like cold steel. "Excuse me?" "You were tilting the table with your knee. The glass was seconds away from baptizing your laptop." Lilith placed the glass back on its coaster. Veronica blinked once. "You're not a sommelier." "No," Lilith said. "I'm the waitress who noticed your 2 seconds from losing 6 figures of hardware." And then she turned and walked away. She didn't look back, didn't linger, didn't wait for a tip or a scolding. Veronica Vale watched her go, eyebrows raised, the corner of her mouth twitching upward for the first time in hours. She didn't laugh. Not yet. But something shifted. An hour later, Lilith was cleaning up the last few tables when a shadow loomed beside her. "You look like someone with opinions," Veronica said. Lilith didn't flinch. "You look like someone who's used to buying them." Veronica let out a quiet, surprised sound, somewhere between a scoff and a laugh. "You're not intimidated easily, are you? You're not as scary as you think." "Oh, darling," Veronica said smoothly. "You have no idea how scary I can be." There was a silence. Not awkward, charged. Then Veronica tilted her head, appraising. "Tell me something. Just for fun. If you had control of $1 billion company tomorrow, what's the first thing you'd do?" Lilith didn't hesitate. "Dismantle it." Veronica froze. Her expression, blank, then confused, then intrigued. "Excuse me?" "Break it down," Lilith continued, placing a stack of dishes into the tub. "Your entire empire. I'd sell off the vanity departments, cut your PR in half, liquidate your stalled R&D investments, and reallocate the capital into venture funds for underbanked communities. Your margins would scream for 6 months. Then you'd be bigger than Amazon." Veronica stared at her like she was looking at a glitch in the Matrix. "Are you being serious?" "You asked," Lilith said, shrugging. "I assumed you wanted an answer." Veronica stepped closer. "And you came up with that just now?" "I've been watching you for weeks," Lilith said simply. "Reading the financial news during breaks. Noticed the way you reacted during that call with Zhang Industries last Tuesday. You're over-leveraged in Asia. You know it. You're just waiting to see if anyone else will notice first." The silence between them deepened, thickened, stretched into something electric. Veronica's gaze sharpened, 1,000 unspoken thoughts passing behind her eyes. "You're a waitress. And you're a billionaire," Lilith said. "But only one of us is asking questions." Something about the way she said it, low, calm, defiant, made Veronica's breath catch. She wasn't used to being disarmed. She certainly wasn't used to being intrigued. And for the first time in a long time, the smile that curved across her lips was real. "What's your name?" she asked. "Lilith." "Lilith what?" "Just Lilith," she said. "You don't need my last name to Google me later." Veronica laughed. Actually laughed. Low, rich, amused. "You think I'm going to Google you?" "I think you already want to." Veronica tilted her head, considering. Then, slowly, she reached into her coat and pulled out a sleek black business card. "Be at this address. Tomorrow." 8 a.m. Bring coffee. Black. Lilith took the card without looking at it. This isn't a date. No, Veronica said, eyes narrowing with a glint of challenge. This is a test. Then you'd better study, Lilith murmured. She walked away again, not looking back, just like the first time. But now, Veronica's eyes stayed on her. Fixed, watching the way she moved. The calm in her spine. The heat in her voice. The absolute lack of fear. The joke had been simple. Ask the waitress for advice. Watch her flounder. Feel superior. But now? Veronica Vale wasn't laughing. She was curious. And if there was one thing more dangerous than her boredom, it was her curiosity. 8 a.m. sharp. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, revealing the top floor of Vale International's headquarters. Marble, glass, and sharp angles everywhere, as if the building itself was designed to remind people they didn't belong. Lilith stepped out like she did. She wore the same black jeans as last night, a clean white button-up, and carried 2 coffees. One was black, just as requested. The other was hers, double espresso with oat milk, because if she was going to walk into the lion's den, she'd do it caffeinated. The receptionist barely had time to speak before a door on the far side opened and Veronica's voice called out, "Send her in." Lilith didn't hesitate. She walked past the stunned assistant and into the corner office like she'd done it 100 times. Veronica stood by the window, backlit by the cold November sun, dressed in an ash-gray suit sharp enough to cut. She turned slowly. Her eyes flicked to the coffees. "You brought one for yourself." "You told me to bring coffee," Lilith said. "You didn't say I had to share." Veronica raised a brow. "You assume a lot for someone who works for tips." "I assumed you wanted someone who could think," Lilith said, placing the black coffee on her desk. "Unless this really is just a power play." Veronica stepped forward, slow, deliberate. "You have no idea what kind of game you're playing." "Maybe," Lilith said. "But you're still playing it with me." There was that silence again. Heavy. Tense. Veronica stared at her like she was trying to find the crack in a wall that refused to break. "Sit," she said finally. Lilith sat. Not stiffly, not deferentially. She crossed one leg over the other, sipped her coffee, and waited. "This isn't a job interview," Veronica said, circling behind her desk. "You're not qualified for anything I'd pay 6 figures for." "I figured," Lilith said. "Then why are you here?" "Because you gave me your card," Lilith said. "Because you wanted to see if I'd show up. And because you haven't stopped thinking about what I said." Veronica's lips parted slightly. Not to speak, just enough for the breath she hadn't meant to take. Arrogant. Accurate. "Fine," Veronica said, sitting down. "Let's see if you can think as well as you talk. There's a problem in my logistics division, where housing costs are up 12% across 3 states. I want a 5-minute pitch on what you do, starting now." Lilith blinked once, not because she was surprised, but because she wasn't. She leaned forward, resting her elbows on the desk. 12%? Let me guess, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana. Midwestern routes choked by new tariffs. But your real problem isn't the tariffs. It's the idiot you hired last quarter who still thinks storage volume is the same as throughput value. You're wasting square footage on dead inventory and overpaying for short-term warehousing when you should be renegotiating freight partnerships at scale. You're bleeding because no one's looking at why things move, only how. You want to fix it? Cut your top warehouse in Wisconsin, decentralize through regional microhubs, and consolidate product flow through key cities with reliable rail. You'll save 7 figures by Q3. Silence. Veronica didn't blink. Didn't move. Didn't even breathe, as far as Lilith could tell. "Do you have a background in operations?" "No," Lilith said. "Just a lot of time reading open access white papers while wiping down tables." "No degree?" "None that matters." "Then how?" "Because I notice things," Lilith said quietly. "And I know what it's like to survive when every dollar counts. You'd be amazed how sharp people get when they don't have a safety net." Veronica leaned back slowly, her gaze unreadable. "What are you doing in a restaurant, Lilith?" "Paying rent. Watching powerful people lie to each other. Learning." "Learning what?" "Who's real? And who's just pretending?" Another silence, this one edged with something hotter than before. Veronica was staring again, but it didn't feel evaluative anymore. It felt personal. Dangerous. She picked up her coffee, took a sip, then stood abruptly. Come with me. Where? Conference room. You're about to ruin 3 of my VP's mornings. Do I get a title for that?
No.
But if you keep this up, you might get an offer. Lilith followed her down the hallway, noticing how every single person they passed did a double take. First at Veronica, always an event, and then at the woman beside her, the stranger in jeans who walked like she belonged. The meeting was brutal, not because Lilith was cruel, but because she was right. Every data point she mentioned landed like a silent bomb. She asked questions no one else thought to ask, drew lines between things that weren't even on the same page. When it was over, the room emptied fast, 3 executives scurrying out with fake smiles and tight jaws. Veronica didn't speak until they were alone again. You enjoy making people squirm. Only when they've been comfortable too long. You're not afraid of me, Veronica said quietly. Should I be? Most people are. Then they probably don't see you clearly. And you do. I think you're a little bored, a little lonely, and a lot more dangerous than you let on. That got Veronica's attention. Her eyes narrowed, but not in anger, in interest. You think I let anything on? Everyone does, Lilith said. Eventually, the moment stretched again, tension pulling between them like a live wire. Veronica's fingers brushed her own collarbone absently, like she was grounding herself. You're trouble. So fire me. You don't work for me. Yet. Veronica smiled. It was slow, controlled, but something in it cracked, just for a second. Something vulnerable. Come back tomorrow. Same time? No, Veronica said. Earlier. And stay longer. Lilith nodded once. You're going to regret this. I doubt that very much, Veronica said softly. But you might. Lilith walked out of the office without saying goodbye. But the look she gave Veronica just before the door closed, half a challenge, half a promise, lingered long after she was gone. Veronica stood there in the silence, heart beating slightly too fast. She hadn't meant to play with fire. But it was too late now. The waitress had walked into her world like she owned it. And part of her, the part that hadn't felt anything real in years, wanted to see how far Lilith would go before she burned. By the 3rd morning, the receptionist didn't bother announcing her. Lilith walked straight into Veronica Vale's office like it was hers, balancing 2 coffees and a folder filled with notes she'd made at 2 a.m. Her eyes were clear, focused. Veronica's weren't. She hadn't slept much. Not because of work. Because of Lilith. Something about her had seeped under her skin like smoke, quiet but impossible to ignore. You're late, Veronica said without looking up from her monitor. It's 7:58. Lilith replied, setting the coffee down. I brought you a croissant, too, but I ate it in the elevator. It smelled too good. Veronica glanced up. That would be grounds for dismissal. You can't fire me. I'm not on your payroll. Yet, Veronica murmured, echoing her. Their eyes met for a beat too long. Then Lilith handed her the folder. Logistics report. I spent all night modeling scenarios based on your last quarter numbers. You're underutilizing southern routes by 26%. Veronica opened the folder, her lips twitching as she skimmed the first few pages. You have handwriting like a serial killer. Efficient, Lilith said. Like your boardroom murders. That made Veronica pause, just for a moment, her fingers brushing a graph Lilith had sketched in ink. Why are you doing this? Because you keep letting me. That's not an answer. You're not asking the right question. Hey, if you're enjoying this story, go ahead and drop a like to help us grow even more. And let me know in the comments, on a scale from 0 to 10, what score would you give this story so far? Your feedback makes all the difference. Then give me the right one. Why does someone like you keep calling someone like me back? Veronica's smile faded slowly. There it was. The edge they kept dancing on. Power. Obsession. Attraction. Lilith sat across from her, leaning back just enough to show she wasn't intimidated, but not far enough to be casual. If you're trying to intimidate me, Veronica, you'll need to do better. I'm not trying to intimidate you, she said. I'm trying to decide if you're dangerous. To your company? To me. The word hung there like a confession. Veronica stood abruptly, walking to the window, pretending to study the skyline, but her mind was elsewhere. On Lilith's voice. Her mouth. The way she said me like it was nothing but meant everything. I have a dinner tonight, she said without turning around. It's boring. A pitch from a company I'm not interested in, with people who talk too much and say too little. So don't go. I have to. Appearances. But I'd rather not go alone. Lilith didn't move. Are you asking me on a date, Ms. Vale? I'm asking you to keep me from stabbing someone with a shrimp fork. Tempting offer. What do I wear? Something that doesn't say waitress. You mean something expensive. I'll have something delivered. You're going to dress me now? Do you want to make an impression or not? On who? On me, Veronica said before she could stop herself. Silence. Lilith's eyes didn't flicker, but something shifted in her posture. Slower. Softer. Then send something black. That night, the car that picked her up was sleek and silent. Inside, a box waited with a dress that felt too soft to be legal and heels that looked like weapons. Lilith changed in the back seat, slipping into the fabric like it was armor. When she stepped out in front of the restaurant, people stared. Not because they recognized her, but because something about her radiated gravity. Veronica was already inside, sipping something clear in a tall glass, her gaze drifting lazily across the room until it landed on Lilith, and stopped. She didn't smile, but her eyes did. You clean up well. You dress me well. I'm good at acquisition, Veronica said, voice low. And what category do I fall into? Still in negotiations. Lilith slid into the booth beside her, not across, and suddenly there was too little space and too much tension. Their shoulders brushed once, then again. Accidental. Then not. The dinner was a blur. Someone talked about app integrations. Someone else pitched a merger. Veronica nodded when necessary, but her body tilted slightly toward Lilith the entire time, like a compass fighting its own magnet. Lilith said almost nothing, but when she did, it was always just enough to make someone uncomfortable or fascinated, or both. After dessert, Veronica leaned close and whispered, You're enjoying this. Watching you pretend not to watch me? A little. This was a mistake. Then why do you keep making it? Veronica didn't answer. She stood, thanked the investors, made excuses, and left through the side door with Lilith beside her, the city suddenly too bright and too loud around them. Her driver waited. The car door opened. Veronica looked at Lilith like a question she didn't know how to ask. Lilith looked back like an answer she wasn't ready to give. You want to invite me in? Lilith said quietly. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Then why don't I? Because you're afraid if you do, you won't be able to stop. Veronica's breath caught. Lilith stepped closer. But don't worry, she said, voice like velvet and glass. I'm not ready to let you have me yet. Is that what this is? It's whatever you're starting to want it to be. And with that, she turned and walked away. Heels sharp against the sidewalk, spine straight, dress shifting like liquid night. Veronica watched her go, her hand still on the open car door, heart hammering. She didn't sleep that night either. And in the quiet, she realized something terrifying. She didn't want to own Lilith. She didn't want to destroy her. She didn't even want to control her. She just wanted her back. Veronica wasn't herself in the boardroom the next day. Her voice was steady, her notes precise, her decisions ruthless as always, but something in her rhythm was off, like a melody missing its bass line. She heard herself speaking but wasn't sure what she was saying, because she kept thinking about Lilith. The way she'd looked walking away. The dress. The quiet confidence. The words. I'm not ready to let you have me yet. No one said things like that to her. No one denied her. Not employees. Not rivals. And especially not someone with no title, no money, no reason to be bold, except for the fact that she could. It wasn't just that Lilith had resisted her. It was why. Veronica didn't want control. Not really. What she wanted was something she hadn't let herself crave in years. Honesty, hunger, something raw and unfiltered and real. And Lilith was all of that, wrapped in sharp sarcasm and velvet defiance. She was the first person in years who saw past Veronica's empire and looked directly at the woman beneath it. And now that she'd felt that gaze, Veronica couldn't stand the idea of losing it. So she called her. At 10:06 a.m., I need you to come in. I'm not on shift, Lilith said on the other end. This isn't the restaurant. I'm aware. Then why are you calling me like I'm on your schedule? Because I want to see you. A pause. Then, softly, that's the first honest thing you've said to me. Will you come? Are you asking or commanding? I don't know how to ask, Veronica said, more vulnerable than she meant. Silence. Then, I'll be there in 20. Veronica hung up and immediately regretted it. But 20 minutes later, Lilith walked in, jeans, boots, leather jacket, no folder, no coffee. Just her. Veronica stood when she entered. You're early. You're flustered, Lilith said. Veronica's jaw tightened. Don't flatter yourself. Too late. Veronica walked around the desk slowly. Do you always enjoy making powerful women uncomfortable? Only the ones who try to hide their hunger. You think I'm hungry? Starving, Lilith said. But you hide it well. Behind your glass office, your sharp suits, your impossible standards. And what do you hide behind? Nothing, Lilith said. That's the difference. Veronica stopped in front of her. Too close. The air between them shimmered. Lilith didn't step back. She tilted her chin just slightly, waiting. Veronica's eyes dropped, first to her lips, then to her throat. She didn't touch her. Not yet. You make it hard to think, Veronica murmured. Then stop thinking. Is that what you want? No, Lilith said. It's what you want. But you're afraid of what happens if you take it. Veronica's breath hitched. And what would happen, Lilith? You'd lose the one thing you've spent your whole life clinging to. Power. Control. Silence. Veronica's pulse was visible at her neck now. Lilith's voice dropped, lower, slower. You can't own this. You can't shape it into something safe. You can't rewrite the ending before it begins. You can only feel it. And what do you feel? Veronica asked. Lilith's lips curved, but it wasn't a smile. It was darker. Sadder. More than I should, which is why I'm leaving. She turned. Veronica reached out, but didn't touch her. Just a whisper of motion. Don't. If I stay, you'll kiss me. And if you kiss me, this changes. And if this changes, neither of us gets to pretend anymore. Is that so bad? It's not bad, Lilith said without turning back. It's real. And real things break. I can't afford to break again. Veronica stood there, paralyzed. Not because she disagreed, but because, for the first time, she understood. Lilith walked out. Again. And this time, Veronica didn't stop her. That night, Veronica poured herself a drink and didn't touch it. She sat in her penthouse, high above the city, and stared at the skyline without seeing it. She kept replaying the words. You'll kiss me. This changes. Real things break. She didn't want to break Lilith, but she was afraid she already had. The next day, Lilith didn't come in. She didn't text. Didn't call. Veronica checked her phone 5 times an hour, hating herself for it. By the end of the afternoon, she did something reckless. She went to the restaurant. It was packed. Loud. Ordinary. The kind of place someone like her didn't belong. But she walked in anyway, in heels and a coat that screamed money, and asked for a table. The hostess blinked. Do you have a reservation? No. I'm looking for someone. Do you mean Lilith? Veronica's throat tightened. Is she working? She called out. Did she say why? No, Veronica nodded, turned, and left. She didn't know what she expected. Maybe to find her there, wiping down a table, eyes narrowing at the sight of her. Maybe to argue. To say all the things they didn't dare say in the office. But Lilith wasn't there. And now, neither was the illusion that this was still a game. That night, Lilith sat in her tiny apartment, back against the wall, knees pulled to her chest. Her phone buzzed once. A message. Unknown number. You're not the only one who's afraid. She stared at it for a long time. Then typed. Deleted. Typed again. I don't want to be a thing you regret. The reply came instantly. You're not. Then another. Come back. Please. Lilith closed her eyes. Took a long breath. Then stood. Slowly. Because even if she didn't know what they were yet, this was already more than either of them had expected. And the scariest part? It was only just beginning. Lilith hadn't meant to text her back. She'd stared at her phone for hours, fingers hovering, heart thudding like a war drum in her chest. You're not the only one who's afraid. That message had cracked something open in her. Because Veronica Vale didn't say things like that. Didn't admit things like that. But she had. For her. And that meant something. Something dangerous. Something magnetic. So Lilith went. She didn't dress up. Didn't try to look like she belonged in the penthouse building with marble floors and gold elevators and a doorman who looked at her twice. She just walked in. Veronica was waiting. The door opened before she knocked. She stood in the doorway in bare feet and a long black blouse that hung loose over her hips, sleeves rolled up, collar open. Her eyes didn't move. They just stayed fixed on Lilith like they'd been waiting hours. Hi, Veronica said quietly. Hi, Lilith replied. You came. You asked. You didn't have to. You didn't either. Veronica stepped back, wordlessly inviting her in. Lilith walked into the apartment slowly, taking it in, floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist decor, books that hadn't been touched, bottles of wine that hadn't been opened. A place that looked lived in by someone who never truly stopped living long enough to rest. You don't sleep much, do you? Lilith asked, voice soft. Veronica exhaled, almost a laugh. I don't remember the last time I slept through the night. Is it work? It's me, she said. The mind doesn't stop just because the body's tired. Lilith turned toward her. And what does your mind want right now? Veronica's gaze flicked to her lips. Clarity. And what does your body want? A beat. You. The word was a whisper. A confession. An unraveling. Lilith closed the space between them slowly, like she was giving Veronica time to change her mind. But she didn't. She stood there, watching Lilith come closer, breath shallow, fingers twitching at her sides. I'm not going to sleep with you, Lilith said suddenly. Veronica blinked. Excuse me? Not tonight. Maybe not for a long time. Veronica's expression twisted. Then why are you here? Because I want to know you. Lilith's voice was steady. And I don't want to blur that with something physical just because it's easier than talking. Veronica stared at her, then looked away. Talking is harder. Exactly. Silence fell. But it wasn't empty. It was thick with tension, with feeling, with everything unsaid between them. Can I ask you something? Veronica said after a while. Anything. Why did you really leave yesterday? Lilith hesitated. Then, because I felt too much. Too fast. That scared you? No, Lilith said. It scared me that it didn't scare me enough. Veronica's breath caught. That you wanted me. That I trusted you, Lilith corrected. And I don't trust easily. Veronica moved closer, step by step, until they were a breath apart. I don't trust easily either. Then maybe that's our problem. Or maybe it's the start of something real. Lilith closed her eyes for a second. Then opened them. Touch me, she whispered. Not to take. Just to feel. Veronica lifted her hand slowly, gently, like she was afraid Lilith might vanish. Her fingertips brushed Lilith's cheek. Light. Barely there. Lilith didn't flinch. She leaned into it. You're cold, Veronica murmured. It's the wind, Lilith said. Or maybe just the walls I keep up. Can I take one down? Lilith looked at her, eyes darker now. Try. Veronica slid her hand into Lilith's hair, fingers threading gently through the strands. Her other hand found Lilith's wrist, not to hold her, just to ground herself. Lilith's breath shivered out of her lungs. Is this okay? Veronica asked. Yes. They stayed like that. Not kissing. Not rushing. Just touching. exploring, feeling. Veronica's fingers skimmed Lilith's jaw, her collarbone, her shoulder. Every movement a question. Every breath an answer. "You're not what I expected," Veronica said. "Neither are you," Lilith whispered. "You keep trying to scare me off, but I think you're the one afraid." "Of what?" "Of someone wanting you instead of your power." That struck deep. Veronica dropped her gaze. "You see too much. And you hide too well." "I don't want to hide with you." "Then don't." The words hung there. An invitation. A warning. A promise. Veronica pulled her close. Their foreheads touched. The tension in the room wasn't heat anymore. It was weight. Gravity.
Real.
"Stay," Veronica said. "Not for sex. Just stay." "I don't sleep much either," Lilith said. "Then we'll be awake together." So they were. That night, Lilith stayed. They lay on opposite sides of the same bed, fully clothed, barely touching. But at some point, somewhere between silence and sleep, Veronica reached out, and Lilith didn't pull away. Their hands found each other under the sheets. Fingers laced, breath synchronized. And for the first time in years, Veronica Vale slept through the night. Not because she was tired, but because Lilith was beside her. And nothing had ever felt safer, or more dangerous, than that. When Veronica woke, she didn't open her eyes right away. She stayed still, suspended in that half-conscious place between sleep and the weight of reality. But then she felt it, warm skin against hers. Fingers still gently laced in her own. A soft breath near her neck. And she remembered. Lilith. She didn't know how long they'd slept like that. Hours? A minute? A lifetime? All she knew was that she hadn't dreamt, hadn't turned, hadn't woken up in the middle of the night clawing at the silence. She had just rested. And Lilith was still there. That terrified her more than she could admit. She opened her eyes slowly. Lilith was awake, watching her. "You sleep with your jaw clenched," Lilith whispered. "I'm surprised you didn't grind your teeth into dust." Veronica swallowed. "I didn't even realize I slept." "You did. All night." "Because of you?" "I think so." Silence stretched between them.
Not awkward.
Just full. Veronica studied Lilith's face. Her bare skin. Her mouth, still swollen from sleep. Her eyes, dark, steady, impossible to lie to. "You stayed. You asked. You didn't even hesitate."
"I did," Lilith said.
"But I wanted to see what it felt like. To be wanted without being used." Veronica's throat tightened. "I don't want to use you." "Then what do you want?" That was the question, wasn't it? Veronica sat up slowly, her hair falling loose around her face. Lilith watched her, knees pulled up, eyes unreadable. "I don't know what this is," Veronica said. "I've never. There's no map for this." "Maybe that's the point," Lilith said. "Maybe it's not supposed to be a plan. Maybe it's just a fall." "And what if I don't survive the landing?" "Then fall carefully," Lilith said. "But fall anyway." Veronica reached out before she realized she was doing it. Her hand brushed Lilith's cheek, slow, reverent. "You don't know what you're doing to me. Neither do you." And then they were close. Closer than ever. Their mouths barely apart. Breath mixing. Hearts racing. The kiss was right there, imminent. Charged. Veronica's fingers curled against Lilith's neck. Lilith's hand slid to Veronica's waist. But she stopped. "Wait," Lilith whispered. Veronica's eyes opened.
Wide.
Needy. "Why?" "Because if we cross that line, we already have." "Not like that." "Then how?" Lilith's voice shook. "I want it to be real. I don't want it to be comfort. Or distraction. Or control." Veronica nodded slowly. Her hand dropped. Her voice was quiet, but not "Then we wait." "Thank you." Veronica stood, walked to the window, arms crossed. Her posture was tense, almost defensive. "You make me feel things I don't know how to name." "That's not weakness."
"No."
"It's worse. It's hope." That word landed like a confession. Lilith rose too, barefoot, hair messy, eyes soft. She moved behind Veronica, not touching her, just near enough that the space between them buzzed. You've spent so long building walls, she said. But maybe it's time you let someone see over them. And if they don't like what they see, then they weren't worth the view. Veronica turned then, slowly, and something in her eyes had cracked wide open. Vulnerable.
Raw.
You're not what I expected.
Neither are you, Lilith said.
But here we are. Why aren't you running? Because I've spent too much of my life doing that. And for the first time in years, I think I want to stay. Veronica exhaled. Something inside her loosened. Then stay. That day, Lilith didn't go home. She made coffee in Veronica's kitchen, burned it,
laughed.
Veronica watched her from the counter, arms crossed, pretending not to be fascinated. They didn't kiss, didn't touch, but the intimacy was louder than any body pressed to another. It was the way Lilith opened the fridge and raised a brow at the ridiculous amount of champagne. The way Veronica pretended not to notice how Lilith's laugh made her chest ache. At noon, Lilith sat on the couch, legs tucked under her, flipping through one of Veronica's untouched books. You don't read these. I collect them. Same thing billionaires do with people? Used to. Veronica joined her on the couch, close enough to touch, but didn't. You really think I'm afraid? No, Lilith said. I think you're brave. But you've forgotten what it feels like to let yourself need. And what do you need, Lilith? Lilith looked at her, eyes full of something devastatingly honest. Someone who doesn't want to fix me, or save me, or tame me. Then what? Just see me, and stay anyway. Veronica didn't speak. She just reached out, and this time Lilith let her. Their fingers tangled slowly. Veronica brought Lilith's hand to her lips and kissed her knuckles. Not possessive, not hungry. Just there. Present. Real. Lilith closed her eyes. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't balancing on a cliff. She was falling. And maybe she wasn't alone. The rain started just after sunset, sharp, sudden, and relentless, like the sky had been holding its breath all day and finally let go. Veronica stood by the window of her penthouse, watching lightning fracture the skyline. Behind her, Lilith was barefoot in the kitchen, trying and failing to cook something edible. Again. You know, I'm starting to think you're sabotaging dinner just to distract me, Veronica called without turning. Maybe, Lilith said. But it's working, isn't it? Veronica turned then. Lilith stood with a spoon in one hand and a scorched pot in the other, a smear of tomato sauce on her cheek, and an expression so unbothered it bordered on smug. This is inedible, Lilith admitted. But I make excellent toast. You're lucky I like toast. You like me. Veronica didn't deny it. She stepped forward slowly, took the pot from Lilith's hand, and set it aside. I don't know what to do with you. Don't do anything. Just let this be. Be what? Whatever it is. Veronica's jaw tightened, like she was trying to hold something back. I don't do undefined. Maybe that's your problem. And maybe you're too comfortable in chaos. Probably. Silence again. They were getting good at that, the kind of silence that said more than most people's confessions. Veronica leaned against the counter, arms crossed. You make it hard to breathe sometimes. Then stop holding your breath. Lilith wiped the sauce from her cheek with the back of her hand. I'm not a danger to you, Veronica. You're the only thing that feels dangerous. Lilith moved closer. Not close enough to touch, but close enough to make Veronica's pulse pick up. Why do you keep calling me back if you're afraid of me? Because I can't not. Lilith's voice dropped. Then stop pretending this is control. It's not. Veronica looked away. Out the window. At the storm. You think I'm pretending? I know you are. And you think you see the real me? I think I'm the first person who's ever tried. Veronica's eyes snapped back to hers. There was something raw in them now. Desperate. I don't know how to let go. You don't have to let go. Just let me in. The room held its breath. And then Veronica moved. Slowly.
Carefully.
She reached out and took Lilith's hand, just her hand, and held it like it was the only thing anchoring her to this earth. You're shaking, Lilith whispered. So are you. Thunder cracked. The lights flickered. Neither of them moved. Stay, Veronica said. I wasn't planning to leave. No, I mean tonight. In my bed. Again. No sex. Lilith teased, her voice softer now. No promises, Veronica whispered back. They didn't eat dinner. The toast was forgotten. The storm outside grew louder, but the quiet between them only deepened. Veronica undressed first, not seductively, not theatrically. Just unbuttoned her blouse slowly, like she was taking off armor. Lilith stood by the doorway, watching. You don't have to hide from me, she said. Veronica didn't speak. She let the blouse fall to the floor. Then the slacks. And she climbed into bed in a black silk camisole and nothing else. Lilith followed. This time, she wore one of Veronica's shirts. White, oversized, barely buttoned. And when she slid into the bed, it wasn't on the other side. It was close. Their legs brushed. Their hands met again. But they didn't kiss.
Not yet.
That would mean giving in completely. Instead, Lilith lay on her side, one hand on Veronica's waist, the other tangled in the sheets. Tell me something you've never told anyone, she said into the darkness. Why? Because I need to know this isn't just skin. Veronica exhaled slowly. When I was 16, I watched my mother cry over a man who never came home. And I promised myself I'd never give anyone that kind of power over me. Did it work? Until now. Lilith's grip tightened slightly. Your turn, Veronica whispered. When I was 19, I fell in love with a girl who didn't love me back. She told me I was too much, too intense, too impossible to hold. She was wrong. You don't know that yet. I will. The silence between them shifted. No longer thick with hesitation, but charged with something deeper. The kind of honesty that stripped you bare even with all your clothes on. Veronica rolled to face her. Their noses almost touched. I want to kiss you. Then do it. But neither of them moved. The tension was unbearable. Lilith's hand slid up Veronica's waist, under the silk, her fingertips brushing the bare skin of her ribs. Veronica shivered. Her breath caught. And then Lilith stopped. Pulled back just an inch. Not yet. Veronica's face fell. Why? Because if we kiss now, I won't stop. And if I don't want you to stop? Lilith's eyes were full of fire and fear and something so tender it broke Veronica open. Then we wait. So when we finally do, there's no fear left between us. Only truth. Veronica nodded. Barely. Then promise me you'll still be here tomorrow. I will, Lilith said. Will you? I don't know how to run anymore, Veronica whispered. That's not true, Lilith said. You just don't want it anymore. They didn't kiss that night. But sleep found them anyway, tangled in each other's arms. No lies. No masks. No games. Just two women learning how to love without fear. And outside, the storm raged. But in the quiet dark of the bedroom, something stronger was growing. Something neither of them could name. Yet. The morning after the storm, sunlight filtered through the penthouse windows like it had been waiting for permission. Veronica stirred first, blinking against a pale gold light, disoriented for a split second, then remembered the warmth pressed against her. Lilith, still asleep, one arm slung across Veronica's stomach, her breath soft against her shoulder. Her hair was a mess, her shirt unbuttoned halfway down, her leg tangled with Veronica's like it belonged there. Veronica didn't move. She just watched her, memorized her. The tiny scar under her jaw, the way her lips parted slightly when she dreamed. The calm on her face, a kind of peace Veronica had never seen before. A kind of peace she wanted to deserve. But she didn't. Not yet. Not really. And that terrified her. You're staring, Lilith murmured without opening her eyes. You're beautiful when you're not talking, Veronica whispered back. So rude, Lilith said, smiling into the pillow. You know I could destroy you with one sentence, right? I'm counting on it. You always this flirty before coffee? Only with women who make me forget my own name. Lilith opened her eyes, finally. You're different in the morning. So are you. Yeah, but I'm usually gone by now. Why aren't you? I don't know, Lilith said honestly. Maybe because for once, I'm not afraid of staying. Veronica reached out, brushed a strand of hair from her face. That scares me more than anything. Me staying? Me wanting you too. The look that passed between them then wasn't soft. It wasn't gentle. It was molten. Quiet fire. They didn't kiss.
But they wanted to. God, they wanted to.
Later that day, Veronica had a meeting downtown. Lilith didn't ask questions. She just dressed in her jeans and leather jacket, tied her hair up, and walked out beside her like she belonged at her side. People in the lobby stared. Veronica never walked out with anyone. But here she was, walking beside this woman like the world could burn around them, and she wouldn't care. Ride with me, Veronica said as they stepped into the elevator. To your meeting? Just to the car. Why? Because I'm not ready to stop looking at you. Lilith smirked. That's the sappiest thing you've ever said. Get used to it. The elevator doors closed. And then it happened. The moment. The one that had been hanging between them since the very first spark. The silence wasn't silence anymore. It was a countdown. Veronica moved first. She turned, reached, and Lilith stepped into her like she'd been waiting her whole life to do it. The kiss wasn't soft. It wasn't careful. It was urgent.
Starved.
It tasted like restraint finally breaking, like fear finally losing. Veronica's hand gripped Lilith's hip, pulled her closer. Lilith's fingers tangled in Veronica's collar, pulling her down, parting her lips, claiming her like she belonged to her. And she did. In that moment, she did. The elevator kept moving. The floor number ticked up. They didn't care. Didn't stop. Until the ding. Veronica pulled back just barely, lips swollen, breath ragged. If we go any further, then don't stop, Lilith whispered. I don't want you to stop. This isn't a game anymore. It never was. Veronica's forehead pressed to hers. Tell me this won't ruin us. It might, Lilith said. But not kissing you would. Veronica kissed her again. Slower this time. Deeper. The kind of kiss that says, I see you. I feel you. I am already yours. When they finally broke apart, the elevator had already opened. Her driver stood awkwardly outside, pretending not to notice. Lilith laughed softly, hiding her face in Veronica's shoulder. We're a mess. We're perfect, Veronica said. A very dangerous kind of perfect. They parted there, Veronica off to her meeting, Lilith promising to be at her place later. The entire day passed like fog. Veronica couldn't focus. Couldn't hear a damn word anyone said. Because every time she closed her eyes, she felt Lilith's mouth again. Every time she breathed in, she caught the scent of her still on her skin. That night, Lilith didn't knock. She just walked in. Veronica was in the kitchen. No silk. No suits. Just bare feet, wine, and a look that said don't say a word. Lilith walked to her. Dropped her bag. Is this the part where we pretend to take it slow? No, Veronica said. This is the part where we admit we don't want it anymore. They didn't even make it to the bedroom. The kiss hit like a wave against a cracked dam.
Desperate. Raw.
Months of denial shattering in one breathless moment. Lilith pulled Veronica's shirt over her head. Veronica lifted Lilith onto the counter. Their bodies fit like answers. Like yes. It wasn't just lust. It was need. It was finally. It was I see you. I want you. I'm not letting you go. Clothes fell. Gasps filled the room. Hands mapped skin like sacred geography. And when Veronica whispered her name like a prayer, Lilith broke apart in her arms. Honest, undone, home. After, they didn't speak for a long time. Veronica held her, face buried in Lilith's neck, heart thudding against her spine. You okay? Lilith whispered. I don't think I've ever been okay, Veronica said. But right now, I think I'm closer than I've ever been.
Good.
I don't know what this means. It means everything's about to get a lot more complicated. Veronica pulled her tighter. Promise me something. Anything. Don't run when it does. Lilith looked at her then, more serious than she'd ever been. Not unless you do first. Veronica nodded. And this time, she meant it. She wasn't going anywhere. Veronica woke first. Not because she wanted to, but because something in her blood had shifted overnight. Last night had been unlike anything she'd ever allowed herself. It wasn't just the way Lilith had touched her, though God, that had already rewritten every map of pleasure she thought she understood. It was the way Lilith had looked at her after. Like she'd seen everything Veronica had spent years hiding and hadn't flinched. But now, sunlight poured across the room, warming skin and sheets and memory, and Veronica was staring at the ceiling with her mind already racing. Not with regret. With panic. She slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to wake Lilith, and padded across the room, grabbing her phone. 37 emails. 11 missed calls. 2 headlines. She froze. One of them read, Veronica Vale seen with mystery woman. Sources say CEO's romantic life no longer a secret. Her stomach dropped. There were photos. Blurry, but recognizable. Her hand brushing Lilith's at the restaurant. A side profile from the lobby. A moment in the back seat of her car. The window half lowered. Lilith's laugh frozen midair. Veronica sat down hard on the edge of the bed, fingers locked around the phone like a weapon. They know. She didn't move for a long time. Not until Lilith stirred behind her, still half asleep, voice rough and soft. You're brooding. Veronica didn't answer. Lilith sat up, the sheet falling around her waist, exposing bare skin and sleepy confusion. What is it? Veronica turned the phone toward her. Lilith took it.
Read.
Her face didn't change. Not at first. But then her mouth pressed into a line. So, we've been found out. Veronica's voice was sharp. This isn't a joke. I didn't say it was. This could ruin everything. For you? Veronica stood. Do you think I'm ready to have every investor, every board member, every media outlet tearing me apart over something I haven't even had time to understand yet? So that's what this is? Lilith's voice cracked, just slightly. A liability? Don't do that. Do what, Veronica? Lilith rose from the bed, not bothering to cover herself, her body still marked with Veronica's hands, her mouth still swollen from last night's kiss. You knew this would happen. You invited me into your world. What? Did you think no one would notice? I thought we had time, Veronica snapped. Time to decide. To figure out if this was real. It is real. Is it? Silence. Veronica's heart was hammering. Lilith's eyes were shining now, but not with tears. With hurt and pride. Say it, Lilith said. If I'm a mistake, just say it now. You're not. Then why are you acting like I am? Because I'm terrified. Veronica's voice broke. Of what this means. Of what I'm risking. Of how badly I already need you, and how fast this is moving, and how you might actually love me. That silenced everything. Even the air between them froze. Veronica stared at her. And in that moment, something shattered. Not between them. Inside Veronica. I don't know what love feels like, she whispered. Then you're in it, Lilith said. Because this fear, this fire, this ache to push me away while clinging to me like I'm your oxygen, that's love. It's messy and violent and terrifying, but it's real. Veronica looked like she might collapse. Lilith stepped closer. I'm not asking you to announce it to the press. I'm not asking for a label. I'm asking for the truth. Can you give me that? I don't know how. Then learn. Veronica's jaw clenched. What if I fail? Then fail with me, Lilith said. Not without me. That was the moment. The pivot point. Veronica could have told her to leave. Could have ended it right there. But instead, she stepped forward. Slowly. Laid her forehead against Lilith's. Closed her eyes. Don't give up on me, she whispered. I don't know how to do this, but I want to. I want you. Lilith's breath caught. Her hands found Veronica's waist. Then don't push me away next time it gets hard. Promise me you won't leave when I get it wrong. I promise I'll stay, Lilith said. But only if you try. I will. Then we'll survive this. They didn't kiss. Not then. They just held each other, tight, shaking, silent. A kind of hug that says we're still here, but God, it's hard. Later, Veronica called her PR team. She told them to deny nothing, to make no comment, to let it speak for itself.
This isn't a scandal, she said.
It's my life. And Lilith, across the room, watching her with a look that could break kingdoms, smiled for the first time that day. Not because it was over, but because it had begun. The boardroom was colder than usual. Not in temperature, but in presence. Veronica stood at the head of the long glass table, eyes sharp, spine straight. Every inch the CEO the world had learned to fear. But inside, she was a wire pulled tight because every face seated in front of her had seen the photos. And none of them were pretending they hadn't. She cleared her throat. I assume you've all read the articles. Silence. A few nods. One cleared throat. One tight jaw. Then let's be direct, Veronica continued. My personal life is not your jurisdiction. Unless it interferes with this company's performance, which it won't, you will not speak on it, question it, or let it affect your vote. Another silence. This one heavier. Then Richard Langford, CFO, older, strategic, a man who smiled only when destroying something, leaned forward with fingertips pressed together. With all due respect, Veronica, he began, you've built this empire on the image of control, of discipline. These photos, the speculation, it makes you look impulsive, emotional, human. Veronica offered dryly. Unstable, he corrected. And that makes investors nervous. Then maybe they should find someone more palatable. We don't want someone palatable, Langford said. We want someone predictable. Veronica's lips curved, but there was no humor in it. Then maybe you never wanted me to begin with. You're risking everything, he said, voice low now. Not just your reputation. Ours. She didn't flinch. If this board is suggesting I step down. No, Langford interrupted. We're offering you a choice. He slid a file across the table. She didn't open it. We've drafted a revised PR strategy, he said. You distance yourself from this relationship.
Publicly.
We reshape the narrative. You regain full control. The board stabilizes. And Lilith. Gone. Veronica's hands tightened on the edge of the table. She's not an employee. She's not even in the company. You have no jurisdiction over her. She's in your bed, Langford said, blunt now. And as long as she is, she's a weakness. Remove the weakness. Or we call an emergency vote. A muscle in Veronica's jaw twitched. Not today, Langford said. We're not monsters. We'll give you time. How much? A week. When the meeting ended, Veronica didn't go back to her office. She went to the rooftop. The wind tore through her hair. Her heartbeat was a roar in her ears. She had spent her entire life building something indestructible. And now, for the first time, she was being asked to choose between keeping it or keeping Lilith.
She didn't cry, but she wanted to.
That night, Lilith came over without asking.
She didn't need to.
Veronica opened the door and immediately pulled her inside, kissing her like it was the only thing tethering her to the earth. Lilith kissed her back. But when they broke apart, she saw it. Something was wrong. What happened? She asked. Veronica didn't answer. Just led her to the living room. Poured 2 glasses of wine. Sat down like her body weighed more than it used to. They gave me a choice.
About what?
You. Lilith stilled. What kind of choice? Veronica looked at her then, really looked at her.
To keep you.
Or keep everything I've built. And I haven't decided. Lilith exhaled like someone had punched her in the ribs. Right, she said. Of course you haven't. Don't. Don't what? Lilith snapped. Don't react? Don't feel? Don't remind you that I never asked to be dragged into your world and used as a measuring stick for your success. I'm not using you. Aren't you? Veronica stood to now. You think this is easy for me? You think I'm not being torn apart from the inside trying to figure out how to keep you without losing everything I've fought for? You can have both? Not in their world. Then maybe their world isn't worth saving. Veronica stared at her. You would let me throw everything away? I would never ask you to, Lilith said, voice trembling now. But I also won't sit here and pretend I'm okay being your dirty little secret when it's convenient and your sacrifice when it's not. You are not a sacrifice. Then choose me, Veronica. It's not that simple. Yes, Lilith said, stepping close, eyes wet, voice shaking.
It is.
You want me? Prove it. Fight for me. Or I swear to God, I will walk away before you get the chance to bury this thing like it never mattered. Veronica reached out, grabbed her wrist. Don't you dare threaten to leave. Then give me a reason to stay.
Silence.
The kind that breaks people. Lilith yanked her hand away, grabbed her coat. Veronica didn't stop her. Not because she didn't want to, because she didn't know how. The door closed. Hard. Veronica sank to the floor. The queen of the city. The woman who never bowed. Crumpled. That night, neither of them slept. Lilith walked the streets with her hands in her pockets and a scream building in her throat. Veronica sat in the dark, staring at the folder on her desk, the strategy that asked her to erase the one thing that had ever made her feel whole. And when the sun rose, they both knew something had to change. One of them had to leap first, or they'd lose each other forever. It had been 4 days. 4 days without a text, without a call, without so much as a breath between them. Lilith didn't go to the restaurant, didn't show up at Veronica's office, didn't walk through the penthouse doors like she had every right to be there, because now, she wasn't sure she ever did. She told herself she was done, that she had meant what she said, that no woman, no matter how powerful or magnetic or dangerous, was worth shrinking herself for. But at night, lying alone in her too small bed with nothing but streetlight shadows across her ceiling, she couldn't stop thinking about Veronica's face. The way she had looked in that final moment, wide-eyed, torn open, unable to speak. Lilith had wanted her to chase, to choose. But maybe she hadn't realized how deep Veronica's fear ran. And Veronica? She hadn't slept. Not more than minutes at a time. The world kept moving, calls, meetings, deadlines, but everything behind her eyes was static. She saw Lilith in every corner of her penthouse. The couch where they first kissed. The bed they never quite got out of. The shirt she'd left on the back of a chair, still carrying her scent. Veronica didn't touch it. Couldn't. It felt like pressing her mouth to a wound. On the 5th morning, she stood in front of her board. They were expecting her answer. She opened the folder they had given her, looked at the release, at the carefully curated PR plan, and, without saying a word, she ripped it in half. The room gasped. My private life, she said coldly, is no longer up for debate. If my relationship destabilizes this company, then you built it wrong. Langford stood. Veronica, you can vote, she said, louder now. Try to push me out. Try to scare me. But know this. I will not give her up. Not for you. Not for anyone. She walked out. Not looking back. Not apologizing. Not caring if she'd just set fire to everything she built. Because none of it mattered if Lilith wasn't there to walk through the flames with her. But Lilith didn't know. She was still in her apartment, pacing, pretending she didn't care, lying to herself harder than she ever had, until a knock came at the door. She opened it slowly, and there Veronica stood. No heels, no makeup, no control, just her.
Real. Frayed.
Heart in her hand. Before you say anything, Veronica said, voice hoarse. Just know, I said no.
To them.
To all of it. Lilith blinked. What? They wanted me to erase you. I told them they could erase me first. Lilith's breath caught. You really did that? I couldn't breathe without you. I still can't. Silence. Veronica stepped inside. I don't know what happens next. I don't know how to fix what I broke. But I'm here. And I'm not leaving unless you tell me to. Lilith didn't speak. Her throat was too tight. Her chest too full. I've spent my whole life choosing the version of me that made people feel safe, Veronica continued. The polished one. The powerful one. But you're the only person who ever made me feel like being just me was enough. Lilith's eyes brimmed. You broke my heart. I know. You made me think I was something to hide. You were never hidden, Veronica said. You were mine. And I was terrified of what it meant to be yours. Why now? Because I'm done letting fear choose for me. Lilith's voice trembled. You hurt me. Then let me stay. Let me earn my way back. What if you fail? Then I fail loving you. Lilith looked at her. Really looked. And there it was. The crack in the armor. The truth behind the fire. The woman behind the empire. You never said it, Lilith whispered. Said what? That you love me. Veronica stepped closer. Because I didn't know how. But I do. I love you. I love you like it terrifies me. I love you like I can't imagine waking up in a world where I don't get to hear your laugh, or argue with you about burnt pasta, or feel your hand in mine in the middle of the night. Lilith's tears fell silently. She didn't wipe them. Didn't move. Veronica's voice cracked. Tell me it's not too late. Lilith exhaled. One long, shaking breath. It's not, she said. But it's close. Veronica stepped into her arms. And this time, when they kissed, it wasn't about fire. It wasn't about hunger. It was about home. They held each other like survivors. Like people who had chosen pain and were ready, finally, for healing. They didn't say anything else that night. They didn't have to. Because when Veronica whispered, stay, into Lilith's skin, and Lilith replied, always, they both knew. This wasn't the end of the fight. But it was the beginning of something that might survive it. The morning after Veronica showed up at Lilith's door, everything was quiet. But not the kind of silence that weighed. This one was warm. Full. Honest. Veronica sat on the floor, barefoot, legs crossed, sipping coffee from a chipped mug that didn't match anything in her curated world. She hadn't brought an assistant. Hadn't called a driver. Hadn't checked her phone once. Lilith stood at the stove, hair still messy, one sleeve slipping off her shoulder, flipping eggs that were somehow better than any chef in Veronica's penthouse had ever managed. I don't even like breakfast, Veronica said. Then why are you on your second plate? Because it tastes like someone cares. Lilith turned. That's the sappiest thing you've ever said. Get used to it, Veronica murmured. You've ruined me. Lilith smirked, but it faded quickly. No, she said. I think I just brought out what was already there. They ate in silence for a few minutes, but something hung between them. Not distance. Not fear. History. And eventually, Lilith put her fork down. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why didn't you ever talk about her? Veronica froze. She didn't pretend not to know who her was. Because she broke me, she said. And because I let her. What happened? Veronica exhaled. I was younger. Stupid. Thought I knew what love was. She saw me coming and used every part of me until there was nothing left. And when I needed her to stand beside me, she stepped back and let me fall. I told myself that was the cost of loving a woman. That it was weakness. That I'd never do it again. And then I showed up. And you made me want everything I swore I didn't need. That's why you pulled away. That's why I almost lost you. Lilith reached across the table. Took her hand. You didn't. Veronica held her gaze. I still might. Not if you keep choosing me. Every day, Veronica said. Even when it's hard? Especially then. Later, Veronica didn't go back to her building. She stayed. In Lilith's apartment. On her tiny couch. In her tiny life that felt more real than any luxury tower ever had. They watched terrible movies. Burnt popcorn. Sat close enough to touch, but didn't rush it. It wasn't about heat anymore. It was about safety. About building something that didn't break every time it was tested. That night, Lilith fell asleep with her head on Veronica's chest. Her breath against skin. Her hand resting where Veronica's heart beat the loudest. And Veronica? She didn't sleep. She just watched her. And for the first time, she imagined a future that wasn't made of quarterly reports and domination, but of soft Sundays, of shared kitchens, of laughter in small spaces. And her. Always her. The next morning, they woke up tangled, limbs knotted, hair in each other's faces. Veronica whispered, I think I want this every day. Lilith blinked. Eggs. You. Lilith smiled. I'm not easy. I'm not afraid. You say that now. I'll say it tomorrow too. Veronica stood, stretched, and walked to the window. There's something I want to ask you. Lilith sat up. Ask. Veronica turned slowly. Move in with me. Lilith's breath caught. What? Move in. To the penthouse. I know it's fast. I know it's insane. But we're already halfway there. I wake up needing to see you. I go to sleep hearing your voice in my head. I want to wake up with your clothes in my closet, and your books on my shelves, and your toothbrush beside mine. Lilith stared. Veronica, say no, and I won't push. But say yes, and I swear I'll spend every day proving that choosing you wasn't a risk. It was the smartest decision I ever made. Lilith stood, walked over.
Close.
Her hands on Veronica's hips. This doesn't scare me, she said. You scare me. Why? Because when I'm with you, I finally want things I told myself I'd never need again. Veronica cupped her face. Let yourself want them. And what if I lose them? Then we lose them together. Lilith kissed her. Slow.
Certain.
Okay, she whispered. I'll move in. Veronica exhaled like she'd been holding the breath for weeks. You sure? No, Lilith said. But I want to find out. The rest of the day passed in flashes. Veronica canceling meetings, Lilith packing up her life in small boxes, neither of them quite believing they were doing it. But they were. Together. That night, Lilith unlocked the penthouse door not as a guest, not as a secret, but as someone who belonged. And when Veronica pulled her into the bedroom, undressed her slowly, kissed her with reverence instead of hunger, neither of them said, I love you again. They didn't have to. Their bodies already spoke it. And when they fell asleep, tangled in each other's warmth, Lilith whispered into the dark, This time don't run. And Veronica whispered back, There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Lilith had never lived anywhere that echoed before. The penthouse was vast, walls of glass, ceilings that felt like sky, silence that seemed to breathe when she walked through it alone. She had always measured home in warmth, clutter, mismatched furniture. Here, everything had a place, everything was perfect, and yet since she'd moved in, it was starting to change. Her books were on the shelves. Her coffee mug stained the marble counter. Her laughter bounced off Veronica's glass walls like sunlight. And still sometimes, when Veronica was gone, Lilith felt like a guest in someone else's life.
Veronica was trying. God, she was trying.
She touched Lilith's back every morning like a promise. She brought her flowers without a word and hid them in random places just to make her smile. She left board meetings early, ignored calls, skipped events, just to sit beside her in silence, fingers laced, breath synchronized. But love doesn't erase trauma. It only shines a light on where the cracks still live. And Lilith's ran deep. One night, Veronica came home late. Not unusually late. Not suspiciously. Just late enough for something to stir in Lilith's chest. The old feeling. That flicker of don't get comfortable. Don't believe in permanence. Lilith sat in the dark, legs pulled up on the couch, the city glowing beyond the glass. Veronica walked in with wind in her hair and tension in her shoulders. Sorry, she said. Langford cornered me. You didn't answer your phone. I had it on silent. For 4 hours? Veronica paused. Lilith. Never mind, Lilith said, standing. It's stupid. It's not stupid if it's making you look at me like that. Like what? Like you're already planning your escape. That landed like a slap. Lilith's voice was low. You don't get to say that to me. Then talk to me. I am talking to you, Lilith snapped. I'm telling you I sat here for hours trying to tell myself you weren't going to vanish. Veronica softened instantly. Is that what this is about? No, Lilith said. It's about the fact that I've been left behind enough times that I can feel it coming like a storm. And it doesn't matter that you told me you loved me. Part of me still thinks it's borrowed time. It's not. You can't promise that. I can, Veronica said, stepping closer. And I am. Lilith took a step back. You don't get it. Then make me get it. Fine, Lilith said, eyes burning. Every time someone tells me they'll stay, they leave. They vanish. They find someone easier, quieter, someone less. She trailed off. Less you? Veronica asked. Yes. But I want you. Until when? Until forever. Don't say that unless you mean it. I mean it. Then why do I still feel like I'm holding my breath every time you walk out the door? Veronica didn't have an answer for that. Not one that would fix it, because she couldn't go back in time and undo every person who had failed Lilith. All she could do was stand there.
Stay. And stay.
I'm not leaving, she said. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Not ever. But I need you to meet me halfway. Lilith blinked fast. I'm trying. I know. Veronica closed the space between them, gently this time. You don't have to be okay all the time. I didn't fall in love with your strength. I fell in love with your fight. And I'll be here. Every time you have to fight that fear. Even if it's messy? Especially then. Lilith let out a shaky breath. I don't want to ruin this. You won't. You don't know that. I trust you. Veronica's hands cupped her face. And I need you to start trusting me. That broke something open. Not in a way that shattered. In a way that freed. Lilith buried her face in Veronica's neck, arms tightening around her like she was anchoring herself to solid ground. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be. Just stay. I'm here. Then that's all I need. They didn't make love that night. They didn't even undress. They just lay on the bed, fully clothed, tangled together, breath to breath. And when Veronica kissed Lilith's forehead, she whispered, You're not hard to love. You're just not used to being loved right. Lilith didn't cry. Not this time. But something shifted. Because for the first time, she believed Veronica meant it. That she wasn't just a beautiful detour in a powerful woman's life. She was the life. And Veronica? She finally understood that the only empire worth building was the one that had Lilith at its center. Not as decoration. Not as scandal. But as home. The next morning, Veronica held a press conference. No scripts. No rehearsed PR lines. She stood in front of the world, camera flashes going off like fireworks, and said, Yes, I'm in a relationship. Yes, she changed everything. And no, I'm not apologizing for that. You can invest in my company or you can walk away. But this part of my life? It's not for sale. Lilith watched from the penthouse. Heart in her throat. Fingers pressed to her lips. And when Veronica came home that night, the door hadn't even shut behind her before Lilith crossed the room and kissed her like they had all the time in the world. Because maybe now they finally did. The knock came just before midnight. Veronica had just gotten out of the shower, hair damp, robe clinging to her skin, the city shimmering behind her like 1,000 sleeping secrets. Lilith was curled on the couch, one of Veronica's sweaters wrapped around her like a second skin, flipping through a book she wasn't really reading. The sound startled both of them. Veronica frowned. No one knocked at her door. Ever. Not here. Not without being announced, scheduled, or cleared by at least 3 layers of security. She walked to the door with quiet steps, heart suddenly louder than her thoughts. When she opened it, the past stood on the threshold. Blonde. Sharp. Dressed in apology. Hello, Veronica. Lilith sat up straighter, hearing the voice but not recognizing it. Veronica's body went still. What are you doing here? I was in New York, the woman said. I heard about the press conference. And I needed to see for myself. There's nothing to see. You're in love. Veronica didn't answer. Just crossed her arms. You should go, she said. Now. Veronica? Lilith's voice came from behind. Veronica turned slightly. Stay back. But Lilith didn't. She came to the door, barefoot, expression calm but unreadable. Who is she? The woman looked at Lilith. Really looked. Her lips twitched. Not with a smile. Something older. Regret. I'm the reason she doesn't trust easily, she said. I'm the one who taught her that love could be used like a weapon. Veronica stepped in front of Lilith. You don't get to come here and rewrite the story. I'm not, the woman said. I'm just trying to close it. Lilith's eyes didn't move. Your ex. Yes, Veronica said. The one who left you when you needed her. No, the woman said quietly. The one who watched her fall and did nothing. Veronica's breath hitched. I don't need your apology. I know, she replied. But maybe she does. She looked at Lilith. She used to believe she had to earn love. By being perfect. Untouchable. And when she wasn't, I made her feel like she failed. I didn't know how to love her when she was human. You do. Don't lose that. Then she turned, walked away, and left Veronica frozen in the doorframe, shaking like someone had just kicked down a door inside her. Lilith stepped forward. Closed the door gently. You okay? Veronica didn't move. I don't want to talk about her. Okay. But I should. She turned, face pale, voice hollow. There are things I never told you. Things I buried so deep I hoped they'd stay dead. You don't have to tell me anything you're not ready for. I am. She sat. Lilith followed. No touching. Just presence. She wasn't cruel, Veronica said. Not the way people imagine. She was cold. Conditional. She loved me when I succeeded. Praised me when I was powerful. But when I failed, when I cracked, she disappeared emotionally. She was there in the room, but gone. And the worst part is, I stayed. I convinced myself it was my fault. That if I just worked harder, became stronger, I could earn her again. Lilith's chest ached. You don't have to be strong for me. I want to be strong for you, Veronica said. But not at the cost of hiding from you. She looked up. That's what I'm most afraid of. That one day, you'll see the broken parts and think I'm too much. That I'm too sharp. Too cold. Too scarred. Lilith reached out. Touched her face. I already saw them, Veronica. I've seen every piece of you. And I stayed. Why? Because broken doesn't scare me. But losing you does. Veronica leaned into her touch like it was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. I don't want to be afraid anymore. Then don't. You might be the only thing I've ever let this close. And I'm not going anywhere. They didn't kiss. Not yet. The moment was too raw. Too holy. Veronica stood. Walked to the window. Lilith followed, wrapping her arms around her from behind. I'm sorry I didn't ask sooner, Lilith whispered. Ask what? What hurt you before I got here? Veronica's eyes closed. Thank you for not asking until I was ready. I'll wait for anything. Just don't lie to me. Don't hide. I won't. The city blinked beneath them. And for the first time, the silence between them wasn't tension. It was trust. When they finally made love again that night, it was quieter. Slower. Like a confession. Not rushed. Not desperate. Just sacred. Veronica let herself be soft. Lilith let herself be held. And when they fell asleep, limbs tangled and bodies glowing, the fear didn't vanish, but it no longer ruled them. Because now they knew each other's ghosts. And still chose to stay. Together. 3 months later, the woman who once ruled headlines with cold smiles and closed doors sat in a soft gray armchair on national television, her fingers interlaced calmly in her lap, her expression calm. Ms. Vale, the host said, adjusting her mic, you've had one of the most dramatic public transitions we've seen from a Fortune 100 CEO. Some are calling it a rebrand. Others a revelation. Veronica didn't blink. It's not a rebrand, she said. It's just the truth. You seem different. Lighter. I am. And that has to do with the woman in the front row? Veronica turned. Her gaze found Lilith instantly, seated off camera, but unmistakable. She wore a black dress. Minimal makeup. Hair down. She didn't look like the press imagined. She looked better. More real. More alive. Veronica smiled. It has everything to do with her. The host glanced at her notes. The public was shocked when you not only came out but doubled down, refusing to correct headlines or issue statements. Why? Veronica paused. Because when I met her, I thought she was a detour. A disruption. Someone who showed up at the wrong time and made too much noise. But then I realized she was the first person who saw me. Not the CEO. Not the empire. Just me. And once I felt that, I couldn't go back to being invisible in my own life. You're in love. Utterly. And what happens next? Veronica smiled again. We live. That night, they didn't go to a gala, or a dinner, or an after-party. They went home. Lilith kicked off her heels the moment they walked in. Veronica dropped her clutch on the hallway table. You looked powerful, Lilith said. You looked like my entire world, Veronica replied. Lilith stepped closer, wrapped her arms around her. I still get scared, she whispered. Good, Veronica said. So do I. That's how I know it's real. They stood there for a long time. No urgency. No performance. Just love. Lived. Quiet. Steady. Later, after dinner, after wine, after Lilith danced barefoot in the kitchen with no music playing, Veronica disappeared into the bedroom for 5 minutes. When she returned, she held a small black box. Lilith was curled on the couch, laughing at something she was reading. Veronica crossed the room, sat down slowly. What's that? Lilith asked. A question, Veronica said. One I've wanted to ask since the day you told me I made you feel like something real. Lilith's smile faded. Veronica, don't say anything yet. She opened the box. Inside, there wasn't a diamond. No gold. Just a thin silver band with an engraving. Still here. Still yours. I don't want a wedding with flowers and cameras and performative toasts, Veronica said. I just want you. Every day. Every time you forget your coffee and burn the toast and make me feel like being soft isn't weakness. Lilith was already crying. This isn't how this is supposed to go. It's us, Veronica said. Nothing about us was ever supposed to happen. And yet, here we are. You don't need a ring to keep me. I know. Veronica reached for her hand. But I want to spend the rest of my life reminding you that I choose you. Not in silence. Not in secret. But every damn day. Lilith wiped her cheeks. Took the ring. Slipped it on. You could have just proposed with coffee. That's for tomorrow, Veronica smirked. Black. No sugar. With a side of forever. Lilith tackled her onto the couch. They kissed like teenagers and lovers and soulmates all at once. The kind of kiss that didn't ask for anything except everything. And when they finally lay still, breathless and tangled, Lilith whispered, Are you happy? Happier than I ever thought I deserved. Then I'll keep proving you do. Years later, when people spoke about Veronica Vale, they didn't talk about her empire first. They talked about how she walked into boardrooms with a wedding band and a fire in her eyes. About the speeches she gave where she said love didn't make her weaker, it made her fearless. About the way she looked at one woman like she was gravity itself. And Lilith? She never returned to the restaurant. She started something new. A foundation. One that funded young women with big voices and no safety nets. She said yes to interviews only when she felt like it. But every time she was asked how she ended up married to a billionaire, she answered the same way. She asked me for financial advice. I gave her the truth. She gave me the rest of her life. And every night, no matter what happened, they came home to each other. Lilith would take off her shoes. Veronica would take off her armor. And they would fall into each other's arms like it was always meant to be. Not perfect, but theirs. Not easy, but real. And more than anything, if you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you.